Okay, let's see. It's 7:30. I'm gonna call us to order. I don't know if Kyle's gonna be able to join us or not. It sounded like he had some schedule challenges. So Sarah's not gonna be here tonight. Amy's also not joining us. So you've got Tim and I running the show here. So I'll call the meeting, the January 21st, 2025 meeting of the Littleton Conservation Commission to order. We've got a fairly brief agenda tonight. We've got some administrative items. Tim, it looks like you have an enforcement order for 15 Powers and you have 13 Winged Cove on the agenda. Do you anticipate either of them will be in?
Neither of them. Or actually, sorry, no. John McGeegan will be in.
Okay.
Kyle Mann, he will be continuing.
Okay. Sounds good. So what I'd like to do is, I think we have a few interesting administrative items. Tim, is there anything, I know you and I corresponded about adding my Boy Scout application to the administrative agenda. Are there any other additions to the administrative agenda that we need to discuss?
I don't have any other additions other than that.
Anyone else? Any other additions?
Nope.
Not for me.
Okay. Then I think we'll move first into the minutes of January 7th, 2025. Are there any comments, additions, corrections, or deletions to those minutes?
They looked great.
No, not for me.
Okay. Maybe get a motion to approve those.
I'll move that we approve the minutes of January 7th, 2025 as written.
Second.
All right. Roll call vote. We've got Ed.
Jack Bolt's aye.
Chase.
Chase Carabay guy.
Carl.
I'm Melbourne guy.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
And Kyle, we're actually in the middle of the vote to approve the meeting minutes from the. Oh my gosh!
I was here. Sorry.
Oh, perfect. Oh, was it an aye?
Yeah, Kyle Maxwell, aye. Yep.
Oh, perfect. And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Very good. Thank you, sir. I think with that, I don't know, Tim, if you're going to pick up the discussion of the Community Preservation Act application, or Andrew, but let's take that one first.
Andrew, you want to take it away?
I'm ready to roll. So I don't know if you guys have had a chance to review the updated application for the invasive plant control at Frog Pond. So essentially, I can give you guys a rundown if you'd like. So I haven't received all the quotes back for the walkway as of yet. That'll be a separate filing with the CPC. So what I sent to Tim and Amy over the weekend was basically a revised version of the invasive plant application that I sent last time. So essentially, the application last time said we're going to do a management plan, do a first phase of work, and kind of apply for more funding in the future. This new application basically says we're going to do an assessment, a management plan, and then get all of it done over a 3-year period with follow-up, in 2026, 2027. So all things considered, the project will be about $30,000 from start to finish. And that's the initial cutting, application, management plan, and then follow-up for 2 years. So it'll be a pretty thorough project. The quote that I got was in the high 20s, mid to high 20s. So I added a little bit of contingency funding to it. But it seems very reasonable, and I think it'll put us on the right track.
Did you say this does or does not include a walkway?
So the walkway will be a separate application. Okay. Once I get some more quotes for that work, I'll have the finalized version of that application for you guys to review. But if this looks good to you guys tonight, what I'll do is I'll package it up and send it off to groups like Long Lake Neighborhood Association and a few others to get endorsements, and then I'll send it off to CPC, and we can get it done at the February meeting. We're lucky in that the warrant actually doesn't close until March 24th this year. So what I can do is we've actually got quite a bit of time before the March CPC meeting or even the February one to review the application for the board, the walkway. But if the invasive one looks good to you guys tonight, we can push that one out and get rolling with it.
Sounds good to me.
All sounds reasonable to me. Do you, Andrew, would you like a vote of support for that or just general consent to move forward?
A vote would be great. And then, like I said, I'll package it up, send it off to LLNA and probably Clean Lakes and maybe the trust, and send it off to CPC.
Yeah, then I'll move for the Conservation Commission to support the application for invasive species management at the Frog Pond to the Community Preservation Committee.
Second.
Second.
Perfect. Roll call vote. Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl.
Tom Mulmer, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerber guy.
And myself, I. It's unanimous. Thank you, everybody.
Andrew, thank you very much for leading the charge on this stuff. It really
Appreciate it.
No
makes a
problem.
big difference.
Oh, thank you.
Things like this don't happen without people shaking the tree and actually putting the money to it. So,
Gotta shake the trees.
okay. Next up, Tim, you want to take us through anything? We have the Shade Tree Committee draft bylaw on the agenda. Anything from you there? Are you looking for me to update folks on this?
I just wanted to see if anybody wanted to review it, or if you guys thought it would be beneficial to have a joint meeting with them to go over it.
My 2 cents is it would probably be good. I got to pick ours back up and move it forward a little bit. The other piece of this is I think is still waiting for town council to take a closer look at theirs. Is that right, Tim? Is that still happening but hasn't happened maybe?
I believe so.
Okay. But I believe they're also looking to get it on the warrant for this
Yes.
town meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you all think of doing a joint meeting with them, like 2 meetings out? So not the next time we meet, which I think, Tim, will be February 4th. But rather do it February 18th, which allows me to get our ducks in a row a little
Yeah,
bit.
I'd like some time to review this before we meet with them. I don't want to meet. I don't have the time to look at this before we meet with them for next meeting at all. So if you could push it 2 meetings, that would be great.
I mean, I think the timeline would actually allow us to push it to March 4th and still have plenty of time if that's better. So our choices are either February 18th or March 4th.
I'd say go with the 18th. I don't want to review this and then have them come in on March 4th and be like, hey, we had a lot of questions and concerns, and not give them enough time to do anything with that.
Sure. So Tim, can you coordinate with them to get them on the agenda for the 18th? And
Yep.
Can you also circulate? I looked through my email and I've got 5 different versions of it, and it's not totally obvious to me what the latest and greatest is. Do you
Yeah, I
think
can
you
see
could
that.
work with Matt and circulate the latest and greatest version?
Yeah, definitely.
So what was the date that you said, Chase?
Our February 18th meeting.
February 18, okay.
And I suppose that presumes it works for them, Tim. If they come back and say they'd prefer to do it another time, we can figure that out. But
Yeah. Okay.
let's impose our schedule on them and see what happens.
Yeah. All right. The Littleton Charter Committee. Just to let you guys know that this thing is forming, and we aren't required to have somebody on there, but if you are so inclined, and you want to apply to be appointed, but again, we're not required to have anybody.
What is it?
No idea.
I mean, in so many words, Michael, it at the highest level, it'll actually, I expect, contemplate whether or not we go from a town. reevaluate our particular form of government. And I believe the charter committee may even contemplate whether or not we should go from a town manager, no, what
Administrator.
yeah, a town administrator to a town manager form of government, essentially shifting more administrative responsibility on professional staff and away from the select board.
It sounds fascinating. I'm not sure I'm the right guy to offer input for that.
I would challenge you on that assumption. Having seen other towns go through it, I do think that charter committee in general, doesn't have to be you, Michael, would benefit from people who bring other experiences to the discussion.
Does sound interesting though.
Be a great fit, Michael.
The documentation that Amy circulated has the timing on it, and I was just looking, and I don't see when they're looking for. Oh yeah, the application deadline is the end of the month, January 29th. So Michael, you got 8 days to put this together. You got plenty of time.
All right, I'll dedicate an evening.
Okay. Sounds like we're moving on from that one. What do we got next?
We have the annual operating budget meeting on Saturday, February 1st at 9 a.m. So, I mean, Chase, if you want to wake up early on a Saturday and attend with me and Amy, you're more than welcome to, or anybody else for that matter.
Tim, you're giving yourself away here. 9 a.m. is not early, my
I
friend.
was just gonna say, I love that you think that that's early.
For a Saturday, that's early for me.
Yeah, I believe I will be in attendance in part because we're the first thing on the agenda. My understanding is there isn't a lot that's controversial in our budget, so
That's correct.
it'll largely be a box checking exercise, I think. You never know though. So my plan is to be there just in case somebody decides to get squirrely.
Gotcha.
And I'll be there for cemetery, like 2 departments after, so I can be there a little earlier too.
Perfect. That'd be great. You're all welcome. I think if you all decide you intend to be there, send Tim a note because we may need to post it as a meeting if we're all going to be there.
Hey, Chase, we don't have to be careful of losing our 2 positions, do we?
It doesn't appear anybody is all that uncomfortable with what we've put forward. I think what we've put forward is a very reasonable allocation of resources given the expectations for the conservation department. That said, that's part of the reason I want to be there, Carl, just in case questions come up about the importance of having
Okay.
2 positions.
Okay, thanks.
This is the budget that Amy and I was there on, and I forget who else was there that we reviewed and then brought to the committee after that. That's the budget we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I'm fine with what's there.
I do expect there may be questions about how the budgeted resources may actually be spent, right? Because sometimes the nature of this is the budget was put together months ago when the timing of Amy's retirement and all that wasn't entirely solidified. So there may be questions about, and furthermore, stumbling over my words, there may also be questions about whether or not we will have someone in the position in time to begin to utilize the resources for the assistant's role and so on. I think those are very reasonable questions.
That's a real concern.
Yeah, I think so. But at the same time, if we're not utilizing those resources, there is some money in the budget currently for Amy to work, or someone, it doesn't have to be Amy, to work on a contract basis. What is it, $5,000 or something?
A little over 5,000, yeah.
But if we don't have someone in the assistant position drawing a salary, that frees up a little bit of money to be able to use for contract support. So the expectation is it will net out, but it may require a mid-year finance committee authorization to shift it from this line to that line. Should be fairly minimal.
moving right along. All right, so the Nagog Hill road parcel, lot 107, that's on the, it's going to be on the agenda for the January 27th select board meeting. Chase, can you send me the slides so we can include that in the packet to send to town administrator's office?
You asked me to do that 2 weeks ago and I forgot. I'm sorry. Yes, I will do that before we wrap up tonight, before I close the
Sure.
computer.
Are they planning on voting yay and nay at that meeting? Or what's-
In my discussions with Mark Rambacher, I don't think so. My expectation is that we're simply going to restart the discussion from first principles. There's a portion of the property. Its highest and best use is conservation. It makes the most sense for the conservation department to have, and the conservation commission to have care, custody, and control of this land. Here is the process that we would need to go through. And then let the select board weigh in on what they see as potential options for it.
Okay.
As Andrew said, the warrant doesn't close until mid-March, so we have a little bit of time. That said, if the
Not a
select,
lot, though.
no, not a lot. If the select board dithers on this, it will be problematic. So I think our big ask of them on Monday is going to be to move this at pace, especially
How
if they
many
want to
selectmen-
hold public meeting kind of things.
Yeah, how many meetings do they have between now and the closing of the warrant? Not that many.
Probably five scheduled, but then you figure they'll probably tack 2 in before the warrant closes, so call it 7.
All right, well,
That
we just
said,
don't want to get down to what we did last town meeting, it was, we aren't sure, we don't want to do it, and this, that, and the other, and, next thing you know, we're pulling the warrant again.
yeah, I very much agree.
I get a little nervous when they're also working on the lease at the same
There's
time.
gonna be a lot of crossover.
Makes me
There's
a
a
little,
lot of issues there.
it makes me a little nervous when they get these.
And I think that's part of what Monday is intended to understand is where are they at with those processes and how does that fit together here? Tim, can you please post Monday night's meeting for us? I don't know if we will have a quorum or not, but I don't think we need a quorum, but to the extent that we have a quorum, I would like to be able to act as a body.
Yeah, sure.
I won't be there. I won't be back in town yet. So.
Do we want to do a just kind of quick see who can attend or?
Oh yeah, we could do that.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to make it. I'll try.
I will be.
I'm going to have to look at the schedule as a whole.
Okay, yeah, I can post it anyways, just out of in the event that we do have a quorum.
Yeah, I think that would be safest. Looks like Rob Rounce has his hand up. Rob, I'm going to try and let you speak here. Should be able to speak, Rob, if you've got a comment.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I attend a good number of meetings. The select board, in some of the discussion about Lot 7A that you're talking about on the 27th, has mentioned at least 2 times in the last 2 months the water department's interest in some aspect that is associated with Lot 7A. I mention it solely that should you care to, you can, if you're not aware, be aware of that so that it doesn't come to you as a surprise on Monday night. I don't want to present like I have more that I think I know, but I'm far from an expert on it, and I leave it to you to determine whether you have interest in pursuing it prior to the meeting.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Rob. I had heard rumblings that are along those lines, and I think part of what Monday will hopefully help us sort out is what does that mean? Because I will tell you, and I think the way that we will convey it to the select board is lot 7A would be a particularly poor choice to use for any water department infrastructure. It's wet. That's the reason we think it makes sense to have the Conservation Commission take care of custody and control of it.
I'm good. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of it, and I'm glad to hear that you have that awareness. Thank you.
Is the water department looking for access to, does the town have any authority to pull any water from that?
We do have the authority to pull some water from Nagog.
Right.
So I wonder if they're looking for some
That's
area
what
to
the
set up
problem.
shop there.
Yeah, there's two things going on that the water department is looking for, at least as I understand it. One is potential treatment for water at the Cobb wells, and the other is for potential access to drinking water out of Nagog. And both of those would require infrastructure. However, I also think the town would be very challenged with legal issues by putting the treatment plant right on the shores of Nagog Pond. Town of Concord is unlikely to be a fan of that.
And they were, yeah, right. I mean, a bit bigger picture stuff is that part of the majority of that orchard probably drains down to Nagog Pond,
Mm-hmm.
I would think, unless it goes a different direction. But
Yeah, things to understand on Monday though is what they're thinking, what questions need to be answered. In
yeah, I see a much bigger picture, Chase, with this whole Nagog orchard thing. There's a much bigger picture that I don't think we really have a good sense of. I guess that's my 2 cents on it. So I mean, this seems like a little bit of a curveball.
Yep.
Being thrown, and
Just one more speed bump.
I think that's right. I will tell you though, as you look at that property, 7A in particular, the argument for carving that off for care, custody, and control of the Conservation Commission is that it is very difficult to build anything functional on. That's why it makes good conservation land. So we'll have that discussion with them. Okay. Next up,
You want to take this one, Chase?
I would love to take this one, Tim. Tim had an interesting week last week, I think, right?
I did.
Tim interviewed for our conservation agent position. Sarah asked me to report. Sarah sat in on that interview. Although she couldn't be here tonight, she wanted to make it very clear that she recommends that we hire Tim in the conservation agent role, the senior conservation agent role, I suppose. The process for this, Tim, I know we were going back and forth with Amy. I don't know if it got resolved who the actual appointing authority for this job is.
I still don't think it's resolved, although
Okay.
to be safe. I think Amy mentioned it would be best to vote on the hiring, not the recommendation of the hiring.
Okay. Yeah, and so what we're talking about tonight is whether, regardless of whether or not it's the Conservation Commission that ultimately hires for this role or the select board that hires for this role, it is a recommendation of the hiring committee that role be offered to Tim. And so I think we have two things to do here. One is to discuss as a group if that's the recommendation we want to make, and I think we should take that up first. And then if that is the recommendation that we want to make, administratively how it gets done. And that's a little muddy, but less complicated. So let's take the first question first, which is any thoughts on hiring Tim as our conservation agent?
Perfect. Tim, I think you would be an amazing full-time conservation agent for us. I've seen how much you've grown over the last couple of years that you've been with us, and you're familiar with the town, the departments, the people, and I mean you're going to jump right into the role. You're going to do a great job, and I fully support that.
I appreciate that, Andrew.
Yeah. Very well said, Andrew. I totally agree. It's been
Yeah, here.
not only does Amy, I'm sure, have appreciated your help. I think hopefully she's been kind of grooming you for this, and she's much more comfortable going into retirement with the assumption that you would be stepping in. So I fully endorse this.
Appreciate it.
I like the idea that Tim's young, and maybe
Leaving us anytime soon.
maybe he'll stay for a while, which would be really nice.
Yeah, but Carly thinks 9 a.m. on Saturdays early.
My body feels old.
Given that, how have other towns been doing hiring assistants? Is there demand out there, or are there applicants? Do we have any idea?
It's going to be a challenging role to.
We
Yeah,
discussed,
I imagine we got pretty lucky that we got Tim when we did as an assistant, right? So from what I had heard, it'd be interesting to see.
met about the budget that day. We discussed that very briefly, and how some of the other towns have had to take completely unqualified people and train them into the job because it's difficult to find people.
I expect it to be pretty challenging.
Are you up to the task of being by yourself?
Yeah, it might require, a couple extra hours here and there, but yeah, no, I think I'm at the point now.
Maybe 9 a.m.
You chose an interesting time to make that comment.
Yeah.
I will say, Tim, I'm very excited to have you in that role. I think one of my expectations of you is that you communicate to us what you need in terms of your career growth in development, right? Like it's one thing for us to get very comfortable working with Amy with 30 some odd years of experience. We're going to need you to tell us what you need in terms of training and development and resources and support so that you can do your job well. I don't think anyone is expecting you to, when your job title changes, to overnight accumulate 30 years of experience.
And I think that's going to be one of the big initial issues, Chase, is that we could just hey, Amy, we'll check that delineation for us and we're all good. No offense, Tim, but it does take a lot of years of experience to get to that level. I'm just kind of assuming that we may be hiring more consultants to check lines, or as Tim grows and gets better and better at it. It's just, yeah.
And I think that was part of the $5,100 that was put in the budget, was anticipating the possibility of that happening.
Okay.
And
Not just training, though. You need to make sure you tell us if it starts to get overwhelming.
Oh yeah, I mean, luckily we have a lot of good resources for trainings, and there seems like there's no shortage of trainings going on because there's MSMCP, there's MACC, DEP has their training. Like there's always something going on.
Yeah, you're going to want to cultivate the contacts with the other towns as well.
Oh yeah, and that's part of MSMCP. Not sure how familiar you are with that, but essentially it's an email kind of message board where if a conservation agent runs into an issue, they can send out a message that goes to all these other conservation professionals, and if they've had experience with these issues, they kind of just provide answers, and so it's a whole network. It's super nice to have at our fingertips.
So Chase, so are we looking for a vote in favor of hiring Tim?
yeah, so the vote would be exactly that, Ed, that the Conservation Commission supports hiring Tim Pearson as the senior conservation agent. It's a little ambiguous because it's unclear whether it would be us that hires it or a recommendation of the select board, but that wording would allow us to do whichever needs to be done.
Okay. You wanna say that again?
Sure. So I'll move that the Conservation Commission recommend the hiring of Tim Pearson as the senior conservation agent.
Second.
All right, so moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Ed,
Ed Bullseye.
Carl,
Tom Albert guy.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Chase,
Chase Kirby guy.
myself, I. It's unanimous. Congratulations, Tim.
Thank
Yeah,
you guys.
congratulations.
Good luck.
Yeah, I look
We're
forward
here
to
as always.
continuing working with you guys.
We'll work through the administrative process here over the next couple of weeks, Tim. But welcome aboard in the senior.
Thank you. So the land use permit.
Oh
for
yeah, last
Boy Scouts?
last thing. So I'm gonna step back as the chair here and present this. I had mentioned it 2 weeks ago. Filed an application on behalf of Boy Scout Troop 1 to utilize Newtown Hill for a camping trip for Boy Scout Troop 1. They would be doing it next weekend. Fire department has signed off. Police department has signed off. I think typically, Tim, we don't always require the full Conservation Commission to necessarily vote in support of land use permits, but we have sometimes done that. So I'm not sure what the right trajectory is, but I want to
Just
make
be
it
safe.
clear.
Yeah.
I'm just here as the applicant to present it.
So I'm thinking just because we didn't have it on the agenda for tonight, perhaps we could just take a consensus and authorize Tim to sign off on it for you, Chase. And
Do we authorize them to have a fire pit?
Yes. Well, the application says that there will be a fire pit. I've been in communication with the fire department. Doesn't appear that they're going to require a formal permit, but the fire would be contained. It would be monitored at all times. It would be small enough. It would only be big enough to achieve, keeping the boys warm and cooking a
Right.
hot dog.
Right.
And fire or fuel sources will be kept away from the fire.
sounds great.
So I move that we approve. It's a consensus vote, so certainly not an approval, but
So I was thinking just because we don't have it listed, we probably shouldn't vote on it.
Okay.
But what we could do is just do a straw poll, and if anybody objected, does that sound like a plan to you guys?
works for me.
Perfect. So Ed, how do you?
I'm on a yes or whatever.
Okay, and Carl,
Yes.
Michael,
Yeah, sounds good.
Kyle,
Yes.
Chase, how do you feel about your permit? No, I was kidding.
Just tell them to take good care of my riding territory.
I plan on using this as an opportunity to make sure that they know that there's a close symbiotic relationship between the Scouts and conservation across town. So
Perfect. So Tim, using your executive authorities, you can go ahead and issue the permits, and they'll be good to go.
Sounds good.
thank you all on behalf of Scouts. I was actually going to make the Scouts come in tonight, but they have their meeting from 7 to 8:30. So,
Yeah.
so you got me instead.
All right.
Okay. That takes us through. Tim, did you have anything else on the administrative?
I did not. Nope.
Okay, and it looks like we don't have John here.
We
for
don't. So
15 powers.
Well, is that a surprise?
he was supposed to be here tonight. He emailed me today and saying he would be here.
Hmm.
So not sure how you guys want to go about this. It's kind of up to you guys if you want to if you feel the need to vote to start issuing tickets again. He has been in communication with us, although he isn't here tonight.
I see there are some new documents up as of, early January.
Yeah,
Some photos and a plan set, although I'm having a hard time interpreting it.
yeah, I don't think it's terribly different than the one that was presented at the prior meeting that he was at. I think the old wetland line was just added to it, and that is not the new wetland line that Matt Morrow delineated.
So
There isn't a,
we don't have that line yet.
it's not shown on a plan yet, no.
I've got to say, I'm inclined to give him another meeting, but my patience personally is running very thin.
I think we should give him another meeting. I mean, he's hired Matt. Matt's been working on it. Give him another meeting. See what happens.
There was another consultant or whatever he was supposed to hire as well, though, right?
Someone to survey.
Yeah, the one they said he couldn't find anyone willing to do the work, and we extended it way out so that he could fit into their schedules.
I think it's probably
Sounds like Carl and Ed are in favor of letting it go for 2 weeks. Is anybody opposed to that idea?
I think that's fair. We can reach out to him tomorrow and see what may have happened and take it up next time.
Yeah. But Tim, impress upon him if you speak with him that, you know, he's been given a lot of latitude.
Yeah.
And to not make meetings, even though he says he's going to be here, it's not good.
Yeah, I'll stress the gravity of the situation.
And at this point, he's not very far from bringing this thing.
Well, I don't know about that. He's got a lot of crap on his property.
Yeah, no, but he seems to have the ability to move stuff when he wants to.
Well, that doesn't mean that he will, though.
Mm.
Sounds like he's going to get his 2-week reprieve. My 2 cents here, and Tim, I don't think you need to necessarily express this as the will of the board, but if we don't make progress in 2 weeks, I don't relish the idea of writing more tickets, but I think we're going to have to. That's where I will be 2 weeks from now.
Pending what he shows up with, I guess.
Sure.
But
He
if
shows
it's
up and
another-
we're making progress. Fine.
Yeah. But if it's another hand-drawn picture and, you know, really effectively no progress, then, you know, it's just stringing us along. So,
How is that going to hold up with the disposition of the last set of tickets? If I remember right, I mean, it ended up being like $15 and an afternoon of aggravation, but
It did. The magistrate clerk reduced the price because the tickets were issued in a lump sum and not on a daily basis.
okay, I see.
Which I believe we were instructed to do. I believe we were allowed to issue them on a lump sum basis, not on a daily basis, but the clerk didn't appreciate that. So he reduced the price. I mean,
I think, though, that if we did start writing tickets again, and I'm not saying that I'm not excited about that, whatever hearing they have, this will be the second instance with the commission showing that there's been no progress, even though he said at the last time that he would make progress. And, you know, after a while, you got history jumping in on this, and you know.
So his it's unusual for Matt Morrow not to have put these things on these points on some kind of map.
I'm not sure there's been too much communication, Carl. I know semi-recently, somebody close to Matt passed away. I can't remember who. So he wasn't in communication with John for a while.
Yeah, and he was away, right? He also traveled over the holidays.
He did
too, right?
travel like right in around the same time. Although I think the month of January he was supposed to be getting back to his normal schedule.
But with the holidays and with Matt's issues and so forth, that's why I'm inclined to give the 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But at that point, you're well over a month past the holidays, and everything should be back to stabilize. You know.
I'm sure he doesn't want to hire Matt to show up at these meetings, because that would be additional money he's gotta pay.
He doesn't have to have Matt come if he can just give us the
Right,
documents that we're asking and show us progress. You know, and there are things that he can do and hasn't.
Yeah, at this point, we haven't had any proof of any
No.
contact actually made with Matt since the last meeting. The last meeting that we saw John at, which was the December 10th one, I believe.
I am more than willing to give folks latitude, even if they're just doing incremental improvements to get to the plan. And I recognize if they, the money issues and all that, but there is nothing. We had a walkthrough, I forget even when it was now, it was before Christmas. Re-establishing or looking at the line again.
Yeah.
And that was it. So that's where I'm at.
Well, it sounds like, Tim, you've gotten pretty consistent direction from the commission here as far as the property owner is concerned. So,
Yeah.
very good. I think that wraps us up for tonight.
Yep.
We just need a meeting to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
second,
All right, roll call vote. Ed,
Ed Foltz, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl,
Bell member guy.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxwell, aye.
Chase,
Chase Fairbank, aye.
and myself. It's unanimous. Good night, everybody.